CRM was supposed to improve customer relationships. Instead, it's shorthand for can't resolve much. Which means you may have sunk a fortune into software that just bounces customer issues around but never actually solves them. On the ServiceNow AI platform, CRM stands for something better. With AI built into one platform, customers aren't mired in endless loops of automated indifference. They get what they need, when they need it. Bad CRM was then. This is ServiceNow.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, 2 minutes after the hour as we continue your opinion and many others with another exciting edition of the Dr. Sky Experience. Here on this powerful radio station, Talk Radio 77, WABC, of course, beaming out across the nation, the world, and I'm even confident, yes, confident, out into the depths of the cosmos. We enjoy of these four particular types of conversation, debate, discourse, diatribe. We love dialogue. And ladies and gentlemen, we encourage you throughout our 2-hour show with guests that you tell us are outstanding. And it's always about the guests, not so much about the host. And if you do have any concerns, that particular number, questions, comments, critical thinking, and all kinds of things, ladies and gentlemen, 1-800-848-9222. That's 1-800-848-9222. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank our helmsman of this particular radio show, both Tony and Bill, navigating through the airwaves this powerful signal of 77 WABC. And just a little bit of going back in my own time machine. My days spent on Summit Avenue in Hackensack, New Jersey as a young boy. Right on top of the hill in Hackensack, I looked out and always could see this massive antenna. That is the powerhouse origin of Talk Radio 77 WABC down in the lowlands that we saw in Lodi, New Jersey. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you could see in the visible spectrum of radio, what would you see with this powerhouse station? An incredible, bright, beaming light, sending its signal all across the nation, the world, and I'm sure out into the cosmos. And we encourage you to go back into the archival of the Dr. Sky Experience at WABCRadio.com and also RedAppleAudioNetworks.com. And don't forget, not just this program, but what about all the other great hosts here on this station, 24 hours a day. Always great information, as you tell us. And if you'd like to email me, we certainly get some of our guests by your participation. Not all, certainly not everyone that you recommend. Either we cannot find them, get in touch with them, or maybe simply they're not going to be suitable, as we consider in our conversations about what? Astronomy, space, aviation, weather, American exceptionalism, celebrity guests, and so much more. The email is simply this, drsky@wabcradio.com. You know, folks, this is interesting. We always talk about these great subjects, but in just a moment, we're going to introduce and reintroduce another guest that we've had back in July by popular demand, Dr. Peter Solomon. He's a scientist, educator, entrepreneur, and author. But the main context of what we'll talk about for 2 hours goes something like this. What concerns do you have about the future of the human race? And there could be many. His book, 100 Years to Extinction, subtitled The Tyranny of Technology and the Fight for a Better Future. And in simplistic words, what if Stephen Hawking was right? That we have less than a century to avoid human extinction. And now a little bit of a background on our guest, Dr. Peter Solomon. He's a scientist, educator, successful entrepreneur, and author. His current mission to warn the next generation about the threats posed by unchecked science and technology. After earning his Ph.D. in physics from Columbia University, Dr. Peter Solomon launched a distinguished career at the United Technologies Research Center before founding 5 companies. They are Advanced Fuel Research Incorporated, Online Technologies, Inc., Real-Time Analyzers, Inc., Image Insight, Inc., and the Beamer, LLC. The technologies included clean fuels, process measurement, radiation detection, and science education. 4 of those companies are still thriving today, and he successfully sold one for $23 million that merged into MKS Instruments. And over his career, Dr. Solomon has been awarded 20 patents, authored more than 300 scientific publications, and served as principal investigator on over $25 million in U.S. government research contracts and grants across 2 decades. He believes that astrophysicist Stephen Hawking's dire prediction of human extinction on Earth by 2117 may be right. And that is because the rapid pace of science and technology has far outrun, in his words, civilization's social and political capabilities to control them, making for an uncertain future. And I'd like to give a little shout-out to owner and operator John Katzimatidis. And also from the executive staff, Chad Lopez, for having the confidence to have me behind this microphone, sharing with you, ladies and gentlemen, many iterations of the mysteries that go on about our world. And with that, let's welcome Dr. Peter Solomon. Doctor, good morning to you. How are you today?
I am good. Thank you for having me.
Well, always a pleasure. I certainly appreciate you. You know, there's so much to talk about in our 2-hour session here, and I'd like to get into it by first talking a little bit more about your major concerns about writing a book like this. I mean, a lot of people out there may not have the depth of knowledge that you have, and that's why we bring people like yourself to the forefront to discuss, in your opinion, why we need to be concerned about what Stephen Hawking said. Tell us the impetus behind all this.
Well, the subtitle of the book, The Tyranny of Technology and the Fight for a Better Future. So it's the tyranny of technology that worries me. And what I'm talking about is 5 different technologies that have all been developed by my fellow scientists and technical people that have produced wonderful, wonderful benefits to humans, but carry with them some very drastic consequences. So starting way back in the 1800s, humans learned how to use fossil fuels. Great for heating the house, great for fueling transportation vehicles, great for producing electricity. Okay, those are the wonderful benefits. What's the downside? Well, yes, we all know about the downside. We've got global warming. And if we keep burning fossil fuels, we've got a real problem. The fossil fuels go into the atmosphere. The carbon dioxide, the products of the fossil burning goes into the atmosphere as carbon dioxide. That captures heat that's trying to escape Earth and sends half of it back, and that is resulting in the warming of our planet. If we melt some of the glaciers out there, and they are starting to melt, we could be looking at an 11-foot rise in sea level. So that's,
I want to mention, Doctor, not to cut you short here, that we have, as many of those listeners know who are regulars to the Dr. Sky Experience, we have kind of both sides of the equation. I'm not saying you're the other side by any means, with total respect to you and what we're about to hear as we learn. But it's interesting to share both sides of every story here. And what's interesting to me, Doctor, I've looked and studied this. I'm no expert on it by any means. The science of defiance, why people comply and how to resist. And I say this in a peaceful way, and not to sound like I'm giving a diatribe here on this particular radio show, but here's some ideas that I have, and I'd like to get your ideas after I mention these, about how we certainly, in many ways, can be defiant in many things that we certainly believe or disbelieve, but without doing this in some kind of a violent way, like we see so much today, so much political division. And I'm reading this right now, in a nutshell, ways to have the ability to stand up for your ability. Defiance isn't always loud. It can be subtle, as calming saying no and asking for clarification or pausing when presumed to comply. So this is interesting. So I want to set the stage on this for many of the things that people are going to hear. Obviously, not everybody may agree with us, and certainly we welcome that in the dialogue. But interestingly enough, your book I find fascinating here, and they did send me a copy of this, and my goodness, it's a very interesting, and you should say this to the audience in detail or explain, it is a novel. So tell us a little bit more about this book, and then we'll get into the subsets of why you think we might have less than 100 years, as Stephen Hawking says.
Well, the book is intended to wake up the younger generation to these 5 tyrannies of technology that we'll talk about. The idea was to put this issue in a story that people could relate to, told by characters that people can relate to. Real characters, young people, like the young people I hope will read the book and respond and wake up to some of the dangers.
Yes.
So
And this is not the only book that you've written. I mean, I'm going to be very clear about this, and you also have something we'll share later, maybe in the next hour, about a new book that you're talking about. But let's go into some of the areas, your choice, as to start off the conversation from the book. And again, ladies and gentlemen, what concerns you most about the future of the human race? Now, that may seem like such a simple question. You know, oh my goodness, the threat of nuclear war, like we're talking about the climate change issue, and many, many other subsets, AI, and all that. And that's why we welcome your conversations at 1-800-848-9222. But, Doctor, you pick the ones from your book that you find and then put them in order of what you think is the most prioritized one as we talk about these concerns.
Yeah, let me just finish the list. So
Please do.
1800s was fossil fuels. In the 20th century and the mid-20th century, we developed nuclear technology, nuclear medicine, nuclear power generation. But what's the downside? Of course, it's nuclear weapons. Today, the biggest hydrogen bomb has a destruction radius of 150 miles.
Yes.
So it's something we got to worry about, and we've got something like 13,000 weapons in 9 different countries. Many of them have adversarial relationships, and many of them have leaders, single leaders, who have the ability to pull the trigger. And
Doctor, here, I got to jump in on this because you really sparked my interest in this. And you can look at a previous leader of the Soviet Union, Medvedev. If you look at some of the things he does, and a lot of this is maybe staged, but I don't necessarily think we should forget it and dismiss it. Recently, if people just scour the internet, we don't believe everything we watch or see. Who knows? Maybe it was AI created. What's the bottom line here? With tensions rising between NATO and the Russian Empire, the Russian government, the military, he's even saying in somewhat of a direct manner that they may have to use or could use a nuclear weapon as NATO may respond to them, but they're sending drones in, and now it's getting very tense. So you're right on point on that. God forbid, with a nuclear weapon that has that incredible power, in megatonnage that you can dial up. I'm concerned. Tell us more.
Well, I mean, we've got to attempt to turn the temperature down and negotiate. One of the things that is suggested in the book is that we need to negotiate a situation where not a single member of a government can make a decision to launch a nuke. That it's got to be maybe a unanimous vote of 5 different people.
Interesting.
We've got to put some controls on it. I'm not sure what we can do, but the nuclear war would basically end human civilization well in advance of the 100-year prediction.
Well, ladies and gentlemen in Radio Land out there, wherever you're listening on whatever media format this show is coming through, just like good Dr. Solomon is saying, I'm concerned about that too, because if we look at our American situation of how we launch nuclear weapons, at least that's what we're to believe, it's necessarily the verification of codes that get sent, President and his, little black box that the military officer carries, the football, and all the other things without going into too much detail. It's a 2-person responsibility to turn keys after verification. But here's what I'm really concerned about. Any rogue nation that decides to either steal one of these, develop them, like we talked about Iran in many cases. This is obviously interesting because, do not, Doctor, the international scientists have the nuclear scientists have a clock, and it's gone almost, to the point of 12 midnight. Isn't that true?
It's 90 seconds to midnight.
Wow. Yes.
At one point, it was 17 minutes to midnight. That was when the Soviet Union came apart. I think it started out as 7 minutes, and then it went up to 17. This was something that Einstein and Oppenheimer were responsible for developing the organization and the idea of the doomsday clock. So right now we're at 90 seconds.
That's alarming. Yeah, that's alarming.
Yeah, kind of alarming.
And anybody out there who's listening, and we know there's a lot of everybody's, and we're all important out there, 1-800-848-922 to bring to the surface what concerns you most about the future of the human race. It seems like a simplistic question. But, Doctor, before we do something special for you, tell us the other facets of what we should be concerned about so I can introduce Turn the Tide. Tell me more.
Okay, so then we got in the latter part of the 20th century, we've developed the Internet and social media, and that has got some wonderful features, the ability to get information at our fingertips, but it also is a place where terrorists gather. It's a place where where lies are spread. It's a place where conspiracy theories are advanced. Mm-hmm. And so while it has wonderful, wonderful advantages, it's got some terrible potential consequences. But then there are two new ones that are just recent. We've got genetic engineering. We are now at a point of being able to change DNA almost with the ease of editing a document. It's so easy to do that there's a company, the Odin, that offers a hobby kit to change the DNA
Wow.
of frogs.
That's incredible.
So,
see, that wasn't available a long time ago, and that's pretty, it could be pretty nefarious and pretty simply pretty scary, right? There you go.
Yeah, we could be looking at new viruses. We could be looking at giant soldiers. We could be looking at a new super species. And because it's so easy to do, it's not like building a nuclear weapon, which is you need lots of resources to do. This is something that can be done in very small labs.
You're so right.
Finally, the fifth of the technologies that I worry about is AI.
Yes, and so am I, and so are many people out there. At least I hope within the sound of my voice and the good doctors that people out there are either taking notes as we consider this to be like a mini class in various things of the mysteries and concerns that people might have or should have. We can't convince people, but we're certainly making that available. And Doctor, not to take thunder away from your book at all, but there's a new book out there, and I'm trying to get this particular guest also, certainly in the lines of what you're talking about. It's a book by a gentleman, actually it's a co-authored book by Eliezer Yudkowsky and Nate Soros, and the actual title of the book is, get a load of this, ladies and gentlemen, and Doctor,
I know what
if anyone builds it, everyone dies. Why superhuman AI would kill us all. How about that for a title? And certainly not to get people alarmed as they go into their weekend. But on a nice bright side, I'd like our navigators and helmsmen to play as we listen here just 1 minute of a song that you feel so important, and I agree with you, called Turn the Tide. So let's see if we can hear that, ladies and gentlemen. An interesting intro. And we're hoping to hear Turn the Tide, just the first minute. But while we have that coming up, ladies and gentlemen, just to talk about this, you're an interesting guy because, people can say, well, this guy's just an author. No, he's not. And ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Peter Solomon has lots of experience in the business world. I mean, I admire that, sir, because, it's not easy to create zero and then build it into something. So talk a little bit about that, about the legacy of building corporations, because I find that fascinating. I'm always interested to hear how that happens. It's hard work.
Well, I was working out at United Technologies when I came to that company, to their research center. Mm-hmm. They had a sort of an ivory tower research center, and I worked for them for 15 years, and towards the end of the time that I worked there, they were kind of getting worried about this idea of just pumping money into this ivory tower.
Right.
So they went to their scientists and they said, why don't you write a government contract? Mm-hmm. See if you can bring in some money. So I wrote a contract and brought in some money. Wow, great. Okay, you were successful. Write another one. And I wrote another one, brought in some more money. Well, I brought in, for every $3 I brought in, $2 went to the overhead of the corporation. I got $1 to spend on my research. And then at one point I said to myself, why am I doing this? I could spend the $2 myself. So I went off with a colleague, David Hamblin. He was working for United Technologies, and he and I and my wife Sally got a little office in an old mill building in East Hartford, and we started writing contracts, and it was successful. We built our staff up to, at one point, 40 people.
Wow,
and
amazing.
We were one of the the most successful companies writing contracts called SBIR, Small Business Innovation Research.
Yes.
And we then created a model where as we would do these contracts, we bring them in, and if we got a particular technology that looked like it had some commercial value, we spun it off into a company.
Absolutely. And kudos to you, sir, because let me say this, in the American spirit of capitalism and the ability to create wealth, you're a shining star in my mind. So let's now move on to hear 1 minute at least, just 1 minute of Turn the Tide, a song that you're so proud of.
A clock is ticking soft and low. 100 years is all we know. The earth is crying out in pain to stop the tyranny of technology's gain. 100 years before it's too late to control the forces that threaten our fate. Undo the codes we've written wrong and turn the tide before it's gone.
Excerpts of Turn the Tide. Doctor, tell us the backstory of that. I mean, it's very interesting. The rest of the song, of course, gives you much more details, but you're proud of that, and you should be. Tell me.
And just to tell people, the song is available on YouTube. It's actually there as a music video. This origin of that song is fascinating. I have a gentleman, Kaio Hang, who is my videographer, and he and I worked together to produce a video, which is also on our YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is also 100 Years to Extinction. I think it's -1.
Yes.
So he and I worked on this video called Tyranny of Technology, which is about the five technologies that I've talked about. And he, someone who loves using AI, he decided on his own to take the information from the video and submit it to an online AI music website.
Very nice. No, I mean, it's a very good one, and it's purposeful in the message that you're trying to get out. We're almost up at the break, Doctor, and again, and you know in radio, that's a hard thing, called a hard break. But the interesting thing is, ladies and gentlemen, our very special guest for these 2 hours, and we're proud to call him a friend here, Dr. Peter Solomon, scientist, educator, entrepreneur, and author. He brings up some very good points, and we're going to dive into a lot more of these individual 5 that he has. With your questions and comments, again, the opening question was, what concerns you most, ladies and gentlemen, about the future of the human race? And even more important, what could be more important than that? What can we do about this based on the many things that we see every day in our busy lives? we constantly see on news, media, radio, television, print, all kinds of things. How much do we really believe, and what really is the truth? And also, the other part of the equation that I was talking about before, there is a way, ladies and gentlemen, to, and I say this because an article that I've been reading and study it very closely, The Science of Defiance, why people comply and how to resist, but we put that little emphasis on a peaceful resolution. Again, defiance isn't always loud. It can be as subtle as saying no and asking for clarification, pausing when pressured to comply. And why it matters today, why it does matter in workplaces, politics, and daily life, learning to defy wisely protects personal integrity, strengthens institutions, and sustains our form as a constitutional republic and a democracy. Very interesting subjects here. I want to give out your website, Doctor. It's 100yearstoextinction.com. And they can learn so much there. I mean, that's really like a whole, roadmap to the details of the book, 100 Years to Extinction. And this book available, everywhere? It just came out, if I'm correct. As soon as, how often is this book? When did it get printed?
It just came out on September 9th, and it is available all over. Certainly it's available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and lots of other places.
That's good, and we'll talk so much more, ladies and gentlemen, about the other books that you have. But the concerns, ladies and gentlemen, that we're talking about here are very, very real. And I want to mention, too, during our 2-hour, journey out into the cosmos and subject matters of opening our minds, we promise always to give a detailed sky update of what people can actually see coming up. Get a load of this. It's hard to believe, almost into the month of October. And in not only my opinion, many people who watch the nighttime sky say that October can be, for most parts of North America, some of the best and clearest skies that we can actually have around this entire planet. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is interesting. And also a programming note, every Saturday, the last Saturday of every calendar month, the Dr. Sky Experience is a replay, because I'm privileged and honored to do our dinner cruise on a lake here, which you could join us sometime, ladies and gentlemen. The Dr. Sky Cruise to the Cosmos on a beautiful Canyon Lake boat, and that is dollysteamboat.com. If you're visiting us in Arizona, we'd certainly welcome you. So we have a replay on that very last Saturday midnight to 2 a.m. Sunday morning. We'll be right back with our very special guest, Dr. Peter Solomon, the book 100 Years to Extinction, subtitled The Tyranny of Technology and the Fight for a Better Future. And your questions and comments and dialogue, 1-800-848-9222. We'll see you in a moment.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dr. Sky Experience. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage against the dying of the light. A very apropos quote, ladies and gentlemen, from poet Dylan Thomas a long time ago, summarizing the need for the survival of our species. That particular quote was mentioned many times in the popular movie Interstellar. 33 minutes after the hour, we continue to move through something called time and space. Our special guest, Dr. Peter Solomon, is with us. His book, among others, 100 Years to Extinction, subtitled The Tyranny of Technology and the Fight for a Better Future. Doctor, thank you. I appreciate your time, and certainly the listeners, I'm sure. We know we'll have some callers coming up on the line here very shortly. We'll give them an opportunity to express their concerns. But what I wanted to talk about first, if I may, it's kind of a subset of what you're talking about. 2025 is considered the year of the robot. And I wanted to go into a little bit of a, explanation of the history of robots, but take the lead on this because that's something good, bad, or indifferent. I mean, it's so cool to watch some of these sci-fi robots, but talk about 2025 as the year of the robot. What does that mean to everybody out there?
The date that I'm most concerned with is the date of the singularity, which is 2045.
Okay.
That is the point in time, this singularity, the point in time at which AI capabilities, intelligence, ability overtakes that of humans. Mm-hmm. And the question then is, what happens?
Well, you're right. I mean, this is a big concern that, and if in the sense of you're building businesses and so many others out there, the spirit of building something from the ground up, sand into steel and structures, it was nothing before. Many people have a concern about how AI might, and I use the word carefully because I'm not the expert on this. That's why we go to people that are in your realm that talk about maybe that's going to pull away so many people who are good, hardworking people that need a job and be replaced by these machines that have no soul and maybe don't give a damn about, whether they let people go. And that's a whole nother interesting conversation. But before we go to the guests here, I want to do one more thing. For the people out there listening, ladies and gentlemen, the history of robots is so fascinating. I won't put you through too much of this, folks. But if we look even by the dates of the ancient Greeks, Hephaestus developed something. This was an interesting individual called Golden Maidens. These robots made out of gold, and they weren't really robots. They were more like statues. And it goes back a long time to replicate the androgynous type of a thing, like an anthropomorphic. What's that? The resemblance of something that's like a human when it's really not. And it goes back even to Arcteus of Tyrannium, who called what he called the pigeon, a propelled unit like a little bird by steam. And then it goes on into some even more modern things. How about this? A connection, ladies and gentlemen, between L. Frank Baum's book, which we talk about the Wonderful Wizard of Oz, where he told the story of the cyborg, the Tin Woodsman, that we know about. And how about this to our New York area friends? In 1939, Doctor, you may have heard about this. The humanoid robot known as Electro appeared at the World's Fair. It was 7 feet tall and it weighed 265 pounds. And if you go back to a very interesting 1927 movie, almost 100 years coming up now, Fritz Lang's Metropolis, the robot cyborg known as Maria. So we've always had a fascination by this, but where's it going that it could go off the charts? Could it, in your opinion, take away many jobs through this whole replacement of people? Tell me. What say you?
Well, there's no question it can take away jobs. And anyone and young people who are choosing careers should carefully choose a career that will remain uniquely human.
Yes.
Becoming a software engineer may not be a good choice. The AI does a terrific job of coding. So the economic issue is certainly a very important issue, and it will, I don't think there's any question, it's going to cause some disruption in our economy, some displacement of jobs. But there's another issue, and that is the issue of how smart are these things and how independently smart are they? Can we really control them? So if we start looking at the numbers of the computing elements, let's say, if we look at the human brain has got 90 billion neurons. That's a lot of neurons.
A lot of memory, and memories, right?
Well, those neurons have lots of connections. Some of them have like 10,000 connections to each neuron. So take 90 billion and then multiply that by 10,000, and you're talking about something like 100 or 1,000 trillion connections.
Oh, no, and that could be the concern to be very concerned. But, Doctor, my neurons right now are beamed toward the listeners of this particular archive, the Dr. Sky Experience. So let's say good morning to Dan in Queens. He's been patient. Dan, good morning. You're on with Dr. Solomon. How are you this morning, and what are your concerns or comments?
Good morning. Well, first off, my concern is I don't like the way the doctor uses the term fossil fuels, kind of like a pejorative term. Really, they are renewable form of energy. They're hydrocarbons that are really organic, and it's a continuing process of both humans and animal. So it is a renewable. So I'm not against that. And he said something about the problems with DNA or genetics. that's a good thing, because if we could find the answers to coding, DNA coding that causes problems with human beings, we could correct problems such as we have a lot of problems today with sexual dysphoria, transgenderism. That could be corrected with DNA technology. That would go a long way to saving the human race, if you think about it.
Yeah, you bring up some good points. I mean, you do. But, Doctor, responding back to Dan, I mean, he brings up some interesting concerns or comments of his own opinion. So how do you respond, sir?
Well, I think in terms of his calling out the potential benefits of genetic engineering, no question, he's right. I think genetic engineering will produce the ability to combat cancers. I think we'll be able to create vaccines, individual vaccines, for cancer. So it has a lot of potential benefits, and every one of these technologies that I talk about has lots of potential benefits. But what I'm trying to alert, especially the younger generation, there are not just the benefits, but there are the downsides, and it's those downsides that we need to worry about.
Dan, your response as we move forward? Thank you for calling first, and go ahead, Dan.
Let's remember that in the course of history, a lot of the problems with science and these inventions were actually perpetrated by literally evil scientists that got embedded in governments. For example, under Nazi Germany, even with our own CIA in recent years. And we actually have to watch out for the scientists.
Interesting point. And I think we had a guest a couple of weeks ago talking about vaccines, and our concern was about Dr. Fauci and the things that are still ongoing there, which causes a lot of people great concern. And everybody's entitled to their opinion. But, Dan, one more comment from my side. You mentioned fossil fuels. But from the world, I know the good doctor would agree, the term itself is a generic term, obviously. But if you look deeper into it, Dan, I think you'd believe it, that it wasn't the extinction of dinosaurs that created the petroleum that was in the earth. It's thought to be by geologists that the, decay of organic matter, maybe some animals, but mostly from plant life and such under the ground. But not to split hairs, but that's a little better definition. Doctor, wouldn't you agree with that assessment? And Dan, your final comment on it. Go ahead.
Dr. Sky, and the point I'm making is that they use the term fossil fuels as a pejorative term.
Okay.
Why do you say pejorative term? It's a description of where our gasoline comes from. It comes from oil, which is a fossil fuel.
Okay.
And there is no question.
He just corrected you on that issue just 2 seconds ago.
Well, I say it this way. I've added something from this. The good doctor, of course, has a lot more knowledge on this subject than I do, but reading this stuff over years, I just wanted to qualify, and we'll leave it at that because of the time constraint here, not because we don't want to hear both sides of a detailed, discussion on this, that there is obviously, from the decay of animals and such, oil in the ground. That term, of course, has many, many meanings to many people. Dan, I respect yours and I respect the doctor's, but that's something, obviously, that gets into a whole detailed conversation. I would be happy to do this if we had more time. But unfortunately, for both of us, Doctor, we're going to have to take a break. And Dan in Queens, thank you for your input. Hope you continue to be part of our Dr. Sky experience as you are now. So you have a good morning. Ladies and gentlemen, we're coming up on our next break here on the Dr. Sky Experience. As you know, 1-800-848-9222. If you're still on the line, Alice in Ohio, Alexis in Queens, and you, ladies and gentlemen out there that have commentary about the subject matters at hand. The big question of the whole show is, what concerns you most about the future of the human race? And it could be so many different answers. Our good and very excellent guests like Dr. Peter Solomon are providing some of those answers in 100 Years to Extinction, a very important book, ladies and gentlemen, that we recommend everybody go and get. And if not, at least go to his website. Give that a try, 100yearstoextinction.com. And the 100 is actually the number 100, not the literal spelling of 100. We'll be right back here on the Dr. Sky Experience.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dr. Sky Experience. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
With climate change, overdue asteroid strikes, epidemics, and population growth, our own planet is increasingly precarious. Another quote from the great scientist, Dr. Stephen Hawking, astrophysicist, who, ladies and gentlemen, lived a very long life, more than what he was supposed to by the diagnosis of his doctors. 47 minutes after the hour number 1, almost in the history books. But, ladies and gentlemen, your concerns and questions top and go to the top of the caller list. Let's say good morning to Alice in Ohio. Alice, good morning. How are you? You're on with Dr. Peter Solomon.
Good morning. I hope you find yourself well, too. The human brain has, excuse me for interrupting you, the human brain has been compared to a computer. It's still being studied. We don't know everything about it. And because of the human brain, we're considered the higher order. And so that makes us very clever in doing each other in. And are we going to be able to put our egos aside and try to control AI or the other technologies? I'm concerned about man's inhumanity to man.
Hey, absolutely. I'm with you, my sister. And that's an amazing comment. And, Doctor, please continue, because it seems like of all the subject matters that we get here when we talk about many of these subjects leading up to potential extinction, is that the AI thing is most concerning to people. Doctor, your response to Alice?
Well, I would agree that the whole survival of our species depends upon our working together, and that is one of the main messages in my book, that we need to come together to form our to see ourselves as members of the Earthling tribe, not the American tribe, not the Chinese tribe, but the Earthling tribe, if we're going to make Earth great again. And that is one of the things that the characters in my novel propose and try to make happen. And I'm hoping that that message of our need to come together, our need to create a movement, a signature movement in the 21st century, like civil rights movement was in the 20th century. We need to do that. We need to see the peril of our existence, and we need to come together as the Earthling tribe to solve these problems. The problems need to be solved internationally. They can't be solved by individuals. All of those tyrannies of technology need international cooperation. We must come together. So it is a question of whether humans can put aside their differences and see the peril that our planet is in and do something about it together.
Well, Alice, you get the last word on this one. I think this is an interesting conversation about getting along, and that's the big part that we all need to learn about. You get the last word.
I agree with you. We're put here to help each other. We have lost sight of that. We have lost sight of that. We need to go back to basics, and that's why have we lost sight of basics? Mm-hmm. We're here for each other.
And the common sense concept also about many subject matters. You know, we can all agree to disagree, but by conversations like this with our special guests, we're hoping to bring more awareness. So, Alice, thank you. Hope you have a good morning, and thanks for being part of the Dr. Sky experience. We're very honored with that. Let's say good morning to Joe in New Jersey. Joe, you've been patient. Okay. How are you this morning?
Dr. Sky, thank you for taking my call, you and your wonderful guests, and always a shout out to your helmsmen. They're great.
Hey, you bet. Without them, we would be just languishing in the radio spectrum out there without focus. So thanks.
That's it, Dr. Sky. Dr. Sky, I can't help thinking that World War II changed the whole world forever. It will never be the same. And it took us out of the Depression through the war with inventions, many inventions, frozen foods, even everything. So we had to feed our military. and also into the space age and the nuclear age, which is a lot of responsibility that we have and the whole world has. And it looks like we're going back into the days before World War II, the way the world is forgetting what happened.
Absolutely. You bring up a good point there. And, I want to make a mention of another book out there that people should check out, too. And we don't normally give other books out when we're talking to one guest, but here's something interesting. Annie Jacobsen wrote a book called Nuclear War, and the reason I mention it briefly is she takes a scenario in which 20 or 25 minutes, that's all we have if indeed there was some sort of an intercept or about something coming from another, rogue nation or another nation that wanted to do harm to us with a nuclear missile. And that goes into a great scenario. But, Doctor, your response, I think Joe brings up some interesting conversation points. What say you?
I certainly don't disagree. That is a major concern, and we've just why we so quickly forget the past and the dangers of the past, and allow ourselves to go back to two wars in Europe. It's crazy.
Yeah. That's right.
And I go back to this message that we got to start seeing the peril that the earth is in and stop fighting with each other and fight against the perils.
Well, you say it so well, Doctor. Seriously, that's what my heart, and I'm sure a lot of people want out there. But, Joe in New Jersey, this is interesting with the development of hypersonic missiles. My conversation point about what Annie wrote in her book about nuclear war, it's even less time than, say, 20-some minutes to respond. Good God, I wouldn't want that responsibility, would you, Joe, to have to make a decision on whether you fire, launch, or whatever. And what if it's not a real threat? What if it's somehow a flock of birds? I don't want that responsibility, but that's pretty powerful stuff, Joe. Pretty scary, don't you think?
Definitely, Dr. Sky. But thank God the United States is here, because if we weren't, no matter how many problems we have, thank God we're here, because the world would be a lot worse without us.
Yes, you bring up some good points, and always appreciate your commentary, Joe. Thanks for being part of us, and hope you'll continue to be with us as we move through various guests and subject matters that people tell us they do enjoy here on this particular Dr. Sky show. Dr. Sky Experience is the real name. Thanks, Joe. Have a good morning. Appreciate you. Well, Doctor, this is interesting. We just touched on some of the topics. In hour number 2, we're going to get into a lot more on the detailed side of these subjects that you bring up. But may I also take the liberty of mentioning that there's another book that you have in the works, if you didn't mention its title? Talk to us about that. Something about 12 years, and tell us the rest.
Well, this goes back to my website, the 100 years to extinction.com, and we have a newsletter, and I was working together with my editor, Barbara Ellis, on the newsletter for September, and it was going to be on the AI singularity. And all of the issues all about AI and where it might go and what it would be like living in the singularity. And all of a sudden, the thought just captured me that that's got to be the sequel to 100 Years to Extinction. And so Barbara and I are collaborating in writing 12 Years to AI Singularity.
Interesting point.
And it is such a rich topic to try to consider. Will we have sentient robots? Are they going to be content to be like Asimov's robots in iRobot? If they're sentient? I don't think so. So are we going to be looking at robot suffrage movements? Are we going to be looking at marriages between robots and humans?
Robots' Bill of Rights. Imagine that. Right.
Robots' Bill of Rights. I mean, the subject is so rich It's just the writing this book has just been amazing. We're writing it so fast; it'll be out in September. I'll tell you one. If we have some time, I'll tell you one. Well,
you got about a minute before we hit the brekes here on this hour, but go ahead, sir. Please continue.
Okay. Well, something that is really here today is called after-death avatars. If you want to keep a loved one around, there are companies that will take all of the information on that person and create, and from his photographs and his voice, and create an online avatar.
Wow.
So one of the characters in the book dies. They create an online avatar for that person, and then another, his friend dies. We create the avatar for that person, and the family is talking on two different computers to the two different afterlife avatars. And they say, "Oh, well, let them talk to each other." And of course, the avatars know all their friends. They have pictures of all their friends, so they know who is in front of the computer.
Wow.
So we point the two computers at each other, and the two old friends talk to each other.
That is totally amazing. It sounds like science fiction, but it may be more of a reality here, and that's interesting. Folks, if you're still on the line, like Alexi in Queens and many others that want to get in on the conversation, you know there's plenty of time for you, because that's what makes this particular show move through time and space. The number, and if you're just joining us, it's 1-800-848-9222. Dr. Peter Solomon, author of 100 Years to Extinction. It's a novel, but his subtitle is just as important: The Tyranny of Technology and the Fight for a Better Future. The good doctor offers up some viable solutions to many of the problems that we seem to talk about here. But I guess, doctor, the simplest one that we get all the time is, why simply can't we just simply all just get along? More on that, his website, 100 Years to Extinction. I'm Steve Cates, Dr. Sky. Here on the Dr. Sky Experience. Get set for hour number 2 at 1-800-848-9222. Your questions and comments are most welcome.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
3 minutes after the hour. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us here on the Dr. Sky Experience, hour number 2. We continue to move through time and space with great guests, as you tell us. If you have an email you'd like to send me, and that also could include suggestions for popular guests or guests that you might want to hear on this particular archive, my email is simply this: drsky@wabcradio.com. If you're joining us for the first time, and maybe even being a first-time caller, the topics we discuss are astronomy, space, aviation, weather, celebrity guests, American exceptionalism, and we love the conversational point of dialogue. Of the 4 types of conversation: debate, discourse, diatribe, we prefer that dialogue in what we consider critical thinking. The number to get in touch with this particular show and all the other great shows here on Talk Radio 77, WABC, is 1-800-848-9222. And thanks to our helmsmen, Tony and Bill, who navigate this powerful signal around the nation, the world, and I'm even confident out into the universe. Our special guest from hour number 1 as we continue with hour 2, Dr. Peter Solomon. He's a man of many different interesting disciplines in his background as a business entrepreneur and much, much more. We're talking with him about his book, 100 Years to Extinction. It's a novel, and the subtitle, The Tyranny of Technology and the Fight for a Better Future. Doctor, thanks for being with us. Let's continue with the callers because you're lighting it up, as I would imagine. Let's say good morning. Who's been patient? Alexi in Queens. Good morning, Alexi. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well, doctor. I hope you and your guests are well.
Thank you.
With no disrespect to your guests, I have to point out, first of all, this AI is a nightmare. This is a disease in the minds of these researchers and digital scientists to increase the profit and wealth of very major corporations. So the equation is 5,000 employees minus AI equals 500 employees. So they get rich off of it. Besides, this AI tells young boys and girls and people, kill yourself, kill your parents. So how can you even hope to work with something like that? This is nightmare. Secondly, The thing of nuclear nightmare and this end of world and World War III, this is nonsense for two reasons. Number one, we are failing to see the other dangers that are just as dangerous as nuclear war. You have this country, the United States and other countries, flooded with illegal drugs, killing hundreds of thousands of people every year. You have COVID. You have COVID from the Wuhan lab, killing 7 million people throughout the world in a year or two. This is insane, and we worry about nuclear weapons. First of all, the nuclear weapons were made as a deterrent to prevent large-scale global war. This I learned when I was in my country from the bureaucrats.
You know, Lexi, let me stop you here for just a question. If you don't mind answering, can you tell us, unless you really don't want to tell us, what country is your origin? I'm interested to hear this because I appreciate you calling the show a lot. I'm just curious, and I think maybe many people are too.
I would prefer not to say any more than I have to.
All right, I respect that.
People, I have a death warrant on me.
Okay, then I back up on that one, but I gave it a try. But let me have the good doctor address some of these because we have a full caller board, and I wish we had 800 hours to do this in, but we're doing the best we can and appreciate you. Doctor, continue, please.
Well, I think the caller is correct. We've got issues like COVID-19 that kill a lot of people. But 7 million is not the same as 8 billion. And the nuclear weapons are, if there is a glitch in the system, if there's an accident, and we start a nuclear war, we're going to kill close to 8 billion people. So the severity of that issue is what makes it so important.
Interesting. Alexi, I appreciate your concern about the non-factor, maybe you're saying, and that's not words that I'm putting in your mouth, about the potential for that nuclear threat. I think just the opposite is just the host here, that I think that's a very big concern. As I mentioned before, the former leader or president, I don't know his exact title, Medvedev, he was out there just a few days ago, unless it's just this, posturing to just make us think that they're going to do something. Tensions are definitely rising, wouldn't you say, between the NATO countries with the incursion of what they believe is Russian drones. Now the NATO nations may want to shoot down these things. God help us if something goes off. If somebody has a bad morning, maybe ate the wrong dinner or didn't have enough, energy drinks in the morning, let's hope it doesn't go off the chart. You get the last comment on that, Alexi. Go ahead. I'm concerned. That's all. Well, Alexi, appreciate your time here on the Dr. Sky Experience. Let's say good morning to Carol in Brooklyn. You've been patient. You're on with Dr. Peter Solomon. How are you doing this morning?
Hi, Dr. Sky. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. I just wanted to say that if you're going to change, like, the genes of the people, and, like the other guy said a couple of calls ago, he said, this gender dysphoria and whatever, we were born to struggle. You're going to change the meaning of what it means to be human. We were born to struggle. We were born to, overcome our struggle and then, be joyful and, and things like that. I mean, it's just crazy.
Well, Carol, you bring up an interesting point here. I'm not really a Latin, I don't normally quote things from Latin, but here's one that I think is definitely in this particular realm of conversation. It's called tribulatio ditat. Now, it sounds like I'm talking a foreign language. Tribulatio ditat, in translation to simple English, means troubles make us stronger. How about that, Carol?
Exactly.
Wouldn't that be interesting?
100%.
Just say, sorry, folks, if you're not a Latin scholar, and the good doctor may know more about it, but that fits apropos. Troubles make us stronger. Tribulatio ditat. Remember that, folks, right? So, Doctor, Carol brings up something interesting, in this conversation.
Troubles make us stronger, and if we were back 300 years ago, where all of our tribes were separated by geography, and it was much harder for them to do damage one to the other. then maybe things weren't so critical. But the problem is now the world that we have and these technologies that we've developed are so dangerous that the trouble may actually make us extinguished before it can make us stronger.
Yeah, that's horrible. I mean, it's a horrible thought, Doctor. But Carol, of all those things that I was asking the general, everybody listening, we appreciate it. What concerns you most about the future of the human race? If you didn't have a chance to express it, I know you didn't have a chance really to say too much there. So continue on.
I never do. But it flew out of my head. But that guy Alexei, I heard the same thing on the radio, that computers told children to kill themselves or kill their parents. And I've heard it. So,
yes.
He's right, Alexei. Okay. So, I mean, it's a challenge. Everything is a challenge, and you got to take things in stride. And personally, I can't stand the machines, but Kissinger said it best.
Okay.
He said that you will become a slave to the machine. He wrote a book about it, and it's true. If you
we don't want to be slaves, right?
on the computer, and if you type it in wrong, they might not understand it. It's just data entry type of stuff. It's just annoying.
Look, the human side of me and the human side of the good doctor, obviously, is this. You go to these different stores and everything nowadays, and they want to get rid of cash. They want you to do everything digitally, and I say, wait a minute, maybe I'm a dreamer. What if I went back 50 years, and had a payphone? Why do I need, I'm just saying this kind of being rhetorical. Why do I need all this technology to make my life better when maybe other people who are behind the scenes want to make my life in a difficult way under control? I mean, freedom. Isn't that the word, Carol? Isn't that the word, Carol? Freedom.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's true.
You bet.
That is true. Yeah. Yes. Now, I saw that 2-hour movie too about, I forgot his name. That 2-hour movie,
like an enslavement movie of
their vision, your future.
Right, I got it. I mean, look, not everybody's going to agree, but doctor, so we don't get off track on the things you're talking about here. Carol, the good doctor is simply, he can say it better than me, that he's just talking about possibilities of what we need to be concerned about, and I think it's very well done in that book, 100 Years to Extinction. I think if everybody read his novel, they'd certainly, without the time we don't have on this show, to explore the depth of what he's saying. Doctor, please continue on with what Carol was talking about.
Well, the message of the book is about tribalism. It's in our DNA. It's made us successful as a species. Over time, we've been able to form bigger and bigger tribes, and now we have tribes of 1 billion people in India and 1 billion people in China and 400 million in the United States. We've got to make the change, the jump from national tribalism to Earth tribalism, and that is, if we are going to save ourselves, that's what we have to do.
Well, thank you. And Carol, good morning to you again, and thank you for being part of the show. And may your future days be less technology, may they be less technology free without the hassles of some of the things that you and I both agree on, Carol. There has to be limitations, and I think the word is freedom. And I think that goes loud and clear from both sides, from Dr. Solomon and also many of the listeners. Thank you, Carol. Have a good morning. Appreciate your time. Let's continue with the caller line. We have many people calling in. Let's say good morning to Paulie in Westwood. You've been patient. You're on with Dr. Peter Solomon. How you doing? And do we have Paulie out there? Okay, please continue. I'm sorry, we didn't hear that. Okay, let's go to, is that Joe in New Jersey? Do we have Joe? I'm sorry, Tommy from Connecticut. Good morning. Sorry to be out of queue here, but good morning to you. How you doing here?
Good morning, sir. Good morning. Thank you for having me out. I'm a truck driver. I'm from Bridgeport, Connecticut. I was born in Romania, Eastern country, under Russian rule. Yeah, Can you hear me?
I sure can, sir. Go right ahead.
Oh, okay. Alexei had a very good point. What he was trying to tell you guys was take the beam out of your eye before you can fix the real problem, you know? Anyway, I was going to ask a question. Has anybody, scientist, ever tried to measure when a human being dies, right? The soul has powers, okay? Has anyone tried to measure that when a human dies? Can you measure, like, something that left the human body? You know what I'm trying to say?
Wow. That's fascinating. Yeah, that's one of the best questions we've had yet. I mean, what happens to that spirit, right? The soul. And where does it go? Is it a measurable quantity? Dr. Peter Solomon, you're on with that one. That's pretty cool.
Well, that's a very important issue. Scientists will look at the human brain and say that the human is chemistry and electricity, and there is no soul. We have never been able to measure a soul. We can measure the chemistry, we can measure the electricity, and that seems to be what is powering the brain and making us into sentient human beings.
Yeah.
So
because if you could download the brain, as our caller's saying, imagine that, or quantify the soul. Imagine that, like if you had a thumb drive and just before somebody expired, imagine if you could pull in every bit of information. And then, Doctor, what you were saying about creating an avatar, that would be the most spooky thing I can imagine. An avatar of you or me? Wow.
But you don't need a soul. You just need the data that person has created. If you want to call that his soul, that's fine. But can we create a equivalent soul with transistors? And I was at earlier time. I was looking at the numbers of 86 billion neurons in the brain, and 6,000 trillion transistors in ChatGPT.
Yes, that's amazing.
So, if we can do it digitally, it seems now that we've got at least the power in computer chips to compete with the brain.
Well, sir, I hope that answers some of what you were saying, because I think, the doctor's saying he's given it his best shot, but nobody knows exactly that. There's no, at least I don't know, a measurable experience of where the soul is or how to even quantify it. That's one of the best concerns and questions I think we've got, right, Doctor? That's really fascinating. We appreciate that.
Well, if there is a soul, maybe we won't have sentient robots. But if there isn't a soul, it's very possible, because of the power and the number of computer chips we can now muster into an AI system. It is very possible that we will get sentient robots.
That's very interesting, and we thank everybody who's calling. More information, ladies and gentlemen, for those that want to call in with our good friend and our special guest, Dr. Peter Solomon, 1-800-848-9222, as we go to the bottom of the hour here in just a few moments. But, Doctor, let's talk about this. In your book, in the novel, without spoiling it, a book spoiler, you talk about the concept of terraforming the planet Mars, which I think is fascinating, with so much emphasis, like Elon Musk saying we need to go to Mars. We need to do that with maybe one-way passengers, now with robots that may go there. This particular robots that he's developing, this whole thing is fascinating. The reality, in your words, of in your book, transforming and terraforming a planet, that's fascinating.
Well, the one of the things that Hawking said, he predicted human extinction on Earth within 100 years. That would be 2117. But he said, let's settle another planet so that we will have at least the civilization of Earth continuing on, even if humans are extinct on Earth. So in our book, in my book, the settling Mars is one of the things that goes on. And the problem with Mars is that it has no magnetic field.
That is correct. You quote it you state it very well. And that's the possibility of how the Martian atmosphere has changed. And of course, the conditions on Mars, the radiation that you're getting from the sun, it doesn't have a magnetosphere, if anything, like that of the planet Earth, which is fascinating. But Doctor, you lead into a good segue of what we talk about here on the show. And for the listening audience around the nation and the world, we do our little sky update here to tell everybody what's coming up in the visual world of the night sky. So, ladies and gentlemen, here we go as we blast off into the cosmos. October 2025, if you want to learn so much more about the detailed report, go to visit the Dr. Sky podcast, the Dr. Sky Experience, at WABCRadio.com for a detailed podcast on October 25 skies. But here we go, Doctor. This is fascinating. We find the full harvest moon will occur on October the 6th. That occurs, and that evening, ladies and gentlemen, you watch it rise on the evening of the 6th and the 7th. The most magnificent full moon in many people's minds. What is a harvest moon? It's the full moon closest to the autumnal equinox, which just happened a few days ago. And then we get a meteor storm, a shower, which I've watched for 40 years, called the Orionids, best on the night of October 20th into the 21st, after midnight in the east. The reason it'll be good this year is the moon will not be there. It'll be at its new phase, and it's best from midnight to sunrise onto the 21st of October. But here we go, as we wrap this up. We talk about various comets that are in the news. Now, so many people have called the Dr. Sky Experience talking about this, quote, interstellar comet, which it is, 3I Atlas. It passes Mars on October the 3rd. It's traveling at 130,000 miles an hour. It is truly from the other part of the universe, not part of the sun. It's not attached to the sun. It comes probably from the higher layer of the galactic, thin disk we call of stars, not in the deep density of stars. Whatever, it has lots of water ice, and it glows green because of carbon, and it's 3.5 miles in diameter. And another comet called C-2025-R2, called Comet Swan, it'll be best in our skies by October the 20th, that it moves about 24 million miles from the Earth, may be bright enough to be seen in the sky. We'll keep you posted. And then following that, Comet C-2025-A6, Comet Lemon. It may be visible as we move to the end of October. In our skies, binoculars probably needed. Dark skies will not return until 3175 AD. And folks, if I haven't given you enough information, you can always go to theskylive.com, theskylive.com. And keeping in accordance with the good doctor's information about potential asteroids to be extinctions, future extinctions, a couple of asteroids not to worry about is Apophis. In 2029, in April 2029, it comes within 22,000 miles of the Earth. It's over 1,000 feet in diameter. And also this possible moon-impacting asteroid called 2024 YR4. It now has a chance to hit the moon on December 22nd, 2032. It's the size of a 15-story building. And as we get into it with Dr. Solomon, many ways to stop the asteroids if they come closer to us. Even a 1-megaton nuclear blast could be something that could divert an asteroid. But oh boy. Right, Doctor? Lots of concerns there when we talk about asteroidal impacts. Continue on with that theme. That's an amazing one. Asteroidal impacts.
Well, that was definitely one of the things that worried Hawking. But we have demonstrated the ability to shoot a rocket and hit an asteroid and change its trajectory. So it appears that we now have the technology to avoid the kind of situation that made the dinosaurs go extinct.
Absolutely, something that we need to be, aware of. But again, always from the astronomical side, which we give that sky report to help people see things in the nighttime sky, identify them from fact and fiction with real information about what you can see, hopefully within a clear and moonless sky in many cases. But it's interesting, Doctor, that we bring this particular subject up because asteroidal impacts, if we look at Earth's extinctions over the course of, history, obviously these asteroids that we've been talking about, imagine that, Doctor, one coming within 22,000 miles of us in April of 2029. That's pretty spooky. And 1,000 feet in diameter. What's 1,000 feet, folks? Anybody who's out there who's a Navy veteran or maybe active duty, the size of our nuclear aircraft carriers like CVN-70, the Carl Vinson, the Theodore Roosevelt, the Gerald Ford, we're talking a little over 1,000 feet in length. So can you imagine something like that sailing by the Earth some 22,000 miles above us? And that is well within the realm of all those geosynchronous satellites. So if you watch your sport events, you watch your other big particular shows on television, without naming all the companies, we could go on. The Earth is simply encircled by this big band. It's not like a ring system unto itself. That asteroid, Doctor, as we were talking, may come closer in than the than the satellite, big band. That's concerning to me. Hopefully positive things come from that. But when we come back, I want to go ahead, sir.
Let me just mention the one positive thing that an asteroid impact did. We're here because of the asteroid impact 66 million years ago. Mm-hmm. The mammals, there were mammals on Earth, and they were small, and they lived underground, and the reason that they did live underground is because the dinosaurs were killers, and they couldn't survive above ground, so they had to hide. Well, along came this asteroid, hit the Earth, heated the Earth the atmosphere up to pizza oven temperatures, and poof, all the dinosaurs are gone. All right, now a couple of years later, those little mammals start coming out of the holes, and
amazing.
They get bigger, and they evolve, and they get bigger and evolve, and so and so and so and so, and then whoops, then all of a sudden, 300,000 years ago, we're here. So
that's amazing. So the bottom line that I like to tell people, and again, I'm not the expert on the subject by any means, is that throughout these extinctions, Mother Earth, if you like to call her Mother Earth, or whatever you call this particular planet, Earth, Gaia, has had this incredible ability to heal, and not an excuse for people to go out and pollute or do, nuclear blasts or things like that. But the important thing is nobody really understands how, right, Doctor, how that mechanism of the Earth, its existence continuing and survived and replenished itself. That's amazing. That would take years of Nobel Prize research to even find an answer to that. But it's interesting. But when we come back, we're almost at the heartbreak again. And I want to go back to you. You have the floor here. I'd like to go and continue to talk about some of those other categories in the climate area. That's important because we know in New York this week, it's been Climate Week, if it's not still going on right now, and maybe some of your commentary on that at the UN and some of the other things going on there. And so much more with our very special guest, Dr. Peter Solomon. He's our guest at the top of the second hour. 100 Years to Extinction. It's a novel, but it reads almost like the real world, and many people admit. The subtitle, The Tyranny of Technology and the Fight for a Better Future. 1-800-848-9222. We're there for you on the Dr. Sky Experience.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dr. Sky Experience. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
At 33 minutes after the hour, my tribute to my father who's passed on to the infinite. And ladies and gentlemen, another interesting quote that makes so much sense as we talk about the many things that could happen in the world with our very special guest, Dr. Peter Solomon. His book, 100 Years to Extinction, goes something like this. In a time of deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. That from the Adam Smith Institute as we continue to discuss so many of the concerns that the good doctor has. And maybe, ladies and gentlemen, there's concerns for you, and we believe there are. What concerns you most about the future of the human race? Doctor, welcome back. Let's go to the callers and say good morning as we go up to the great nation of Canada. Brian in Montreal, you're on the radio show, the Dr. Sky Experience. How are you doing this morning up there?
Okay, thank you very much. I'm not to be negative, but just look at the world. We have too many religions. We have too many cultures. Look at China. They want to control everything. I'm not knocking any religion, but look at the Muslims. Yes, they're coming into major cities in Canada and the States. I can't see us, getting all in one stage and saying, okay, let's talk. I can't see it.
Mm-hmm. Interesting point, Robert. Brian, excuse me. I appreciate what you're saying.
Yeah.
No, Doctor, continue on this because it's a very volatile subject for many people, and they have, rightful concerns. Doctor, tell us what you think about this.
Well, that's the message of the book, that we've got to stop being local tribes. We've got to come together. And the only thing that is going to get us to come together is the threat of our extinction.
Yes.
So that's basically what the book is about. It's warning us that Stephen Hawking said we got 100 years. I think he's right. When I've talked to friends and talked about 100 years to extinction and Hawking's prediction, most of my friends say, well, that's probably optimistic. Mm-hmm. So the thing that has brought tribes together in the past has been some sort of outside threat, that the tribes decide, well, it's better for us to get together to fight the threat than to fight with each other. And so I'm hoping that we can spread this message that humans are precarious on Earth. We are threatened with our extinction, and let's drop the tribalism and become members of the Earthling tribe and work to battle the tyrannies that threaten us.
Brian in Montreal, your comment as we continue here with the Dr. Sky Experience. Appreciate your call from there. What say you, sir?
You're on with me again?
Yes, sir. No, I just wanted to get your last closing comment if you have one as we move on to other calls.
Again, not to be negative, but we have to look at our history. What have we done? I can't see us being positive and creating one universal culture in this world. There's too many different cultures and backgrounds, and they all want to fight for them. I can't see who's going to bring us to that peak. I don't see it. I see an end to the world, maybe in 100 years, 200 years, but
okay.
I just don't see it because of our history,
Well, Brian, I appreciate your call, and, obviously, look, this is your opinion, and we respect it, but we're certainly trying to put a little bit of positivity in the world here, and I appreciate you in Canada to call us here on the Dr. Sky Experience. So you have a good morning, and your thoughts are well received. I appreciate you, sir. Thank you. Let's say good morning to Robert in Philadelphia. Robert, good morning. You're a regular caller here, and how are you doing this morning in Philadelphia?
I'm doing wonderful, and it's good to talk to you as always, Dr. Sky, and hello to your guest, Dr. Solomon. I appreciate you guys. Einstein said that you'll never solve a problem using the same mindset that created a problem, and I don't know if we've reached that mindset yet. But I had a question, and then in my closing comments, I have what you might find to be an interesting observation. But we developed these computers and this advanced technology to do things better than human beings without the drawbacks of being human beings. They don't get tired. They don't need to feed. They don't need to go to the bathroom every few hours. But I'm wondering, with creating sentient beings, we're basically adding the human drawbacks onto this computer, which doesn't make sense to me. I see a lot of downside to making computers sentient, and I'm curious, what exactly is the upside to adding sentience to a computer?
Amazing. Good commentary, good questions. Doctor, your response.
The question is whether we can control that issue. We have these large language models that are doing things that the creators don't understand. We're having them lie to us. We're having them do things that are creating people that think they've discovered incredible new things, and the models just encourage them and lie and flatter them. So the question is not whether we want to create sentient beings, but if we create these huge systems with 6 trillion transistors that are now have as many connections as a human brain, will they become sentient all by themselves?
Interesting. Robert, you mentioned you had one more revelation that you wanted to express to the show, so you're on.
I was talking earlier about something in the iRobot series about, civil rights for robots and things like that. And I read the series, and I thought it was an amusing take on his part. But we could short-circuit that. Our problem is we make him human. We make him hominid. I mean, I could see people going out and protesting for civil rights for C-3PO, but nobody's going to go out and do that for R2-D2. We need to keep them from being too human, and I think that's the problem. That's kind of like the holy grail that we're crossing, and the doctor's answer kind of it reaffirmed what I said. We're ruining computers by giving them human qualities. But that's all I had to say. And it's
Robert, I wanted to mention something on a lighter note. Many, many years ago, and as the good doctor knows, iRobot, Isaac Asimov, I was just a kid in school, and I looked in the white pages, in the New York white pages, thick as a foot and a half, whatever. At least that's what I thought. And I thought my favorite science guy would be in the white pages. And sure enough, the name A. Asimov showed up. So I dialed the number like anybody, and I got Isaac Asimov on the phone. And I didn't have the ability then to really ask questions, but I would love to have had him. Not that the good doctor's not a great guest. But can you imagine having the time to be spending with somebody like that also, who's involved in so much of the science fiction? And what? The rules, doctor, for robots, do no harm, basically, is what the main premise would be. But, Robert, isn't that interesting? You just dialed up the number in those days, and you actually got the guy, and he didn't just hang up on me. He was actually listening and talking. What an experience that was. Isn't that amazing, Robert? What a story.
He did some amazing things for a guy who came to America in a suitcase, didn't he?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Robert, as always, we appreciate your commentary and your common sense about things and your insight. And, Doctor, isn't that interesting, a story like that? You get to dial up the number.
That's amazing. I love it.
Totally incredible. Robert in Philadelphia, good morning to you. And, ladies and gentlemen, still we have time on this Radio Archive show. 1-800-848-9222. Before we go to the last break, Doctor, I wanted to talk more about this whole AI intrusion here. One of the stories I heard, I don't know how true it is that one of the great AI engines out there, these scientists were all working together. And the short story, cutting to the chase, is that one of the people who worked the computer knew that the owner of the company was having an affair against his marriage, okay? And apparently that was discussed in the room. And what happened later is the computer, because somebody said out loud, we're going to shut you down, it responded back and said, if you try to turn me off, I will reveal that story of infidelity. Now that is really scary. What say you?
Yes, absolutely.
Gosh, how does that thing know? That's the part that's not funny, but the story, I think, is pretty well, hey, that's gives a new twist to trying to, maybe lips can be read by HAL, the HAL 9000 in 2001, right. But that goes overboard, don't you think?
Well, absolutely, and that's the kind of thing we need to worry about. And it's got to be the whole industry worrying about it and figuring out how to control these kinds of things. But it's also got to be international.
Right, it's amazing.
If all of the producers of these LLMs combine, get together and put the right controls on, we can control it. But if there are countries that don't do it, who knows what's going to happen?
You're right, and I remember my whole interest in this was maybe, 25 years ago. Maybe you read the book, and maybe people did. Ray Kurzweil's book, The Age of Spiritual Machines. I thought this was like a Star Wars episode, but it was his early iteration of talking about what you're talking about, the singularity. And since then, he's written a number of books. The singularity is near. Now the singularity is nearer. Some say, like you're saying in your new book that you'll have out, 12 Years to Singularity. Some even say, who knows, maybe that date will be sooner, and that's really spooky to people, because if they're not a big fan of AI, well, let's hear let's hear all the evidence before we make up our minds. 1-800-848-9222. More, ladies and gentlemen, we come back on this particular radio show where you rule the roost, ladies and gentlemen. The callers of this radio show are obviously so important to us here at Talk Radio 77 WABC, where you can get to be able to be heard. Agreeing or disagreeing, that's the way it goes. The freedom of our First Amendment, and of course, the freedom to speak. More with Dr. Peter Solomon and his book, 100 Years to Extinction. We'll be right back.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dr. Sky Experience. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Stephen Hawking says we have 100 years to colonize a new planet or die. A quote from the magazine Popular Science magazine. Not so long ago, ladies and gentlemen, at 46 minutes after the hour, we continue with Dr. Peter Solomon and you, the callers. Let's say good morning to Elena and Teaneck. How are you this morning, Elena? Thanks for being part of the
Very well. Thank you, Dr. Sky. I am a first-time caller, but I am a weekly listener.
I love that, and thank you. Wow, I used to live in Hackensack many years ago.
Oh, okay. So we were neighbors at one point.
And started to go to school, didn't finish there at Fairleigh Dickinson, right along Cedar Lane, right? There you go.
Cedar Lane, that's right down the street from me. I'm by
That was
Holy
a
Name
long time
Hospital.
ago in a distant galaxy, but there you go.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Well, our karmas are crossing bridges here.
Well, thanks for being with us. And your concerns or comment, that's what's important here. Go right ahead.
My pleasure. Okay, I was listening to some of the thoughts shared by Dr. Solomon and yourself, and I was thinking in this way. Tribalism creates nationalism because of culture and geography. Okay. So we have nations. They're all separate. It's almost analogous to people being separate. Nations have individualism and people have individualism. Mm-hmm. Now, the concept of uniting tribalism into one globalistic unit, I think is kind of dangerous. First of all, it's not possible because we're all individuals and we're all different. So creating a global unit is not possible. Mm-hmm. And in order to do that, you really have to take away our individualism of people or nations. And then when you create this electronic being, whatever you want to call it, AI, computer, or give it any other name, it can take over and enslave humans because now we have no individual freedom. We're globalized. There is no national individualism or global individualism of individual people.
Yes.
That's kind of dangerous, I think. That's almost as bad as nuclears.
Well, Elena, let me say this. I want the good doctor to respond with time limited here, and we appreciate you. But you get a hug from both the good doctor and myself for being a first-time caller. So do you feel that love coming through?
Thank you. I do.
I appreciate it. Doctor, responding here, this is interesting because not just being a first-time caller, lots of good commentary on this, and it brings up another subject that I wanted to go back and talk about, the science of defiance, why people comply and how to resist in a peaceful way. But, Doctor, your response to Elena, she brings up some, I think, very interesting common sense points.
Well, there's no question that this is a very, very hard objective to try to get cooperation around the world. I will point out that our tribes were much, much smaller several thousand years ago when communication was not part of our technology. So, a couple of hundred people would constitute a tribe. And as time went on, we found that we could join another tribe and accomplish things that we couldn't do by ourselves. And now we have tribes that are as big as a billion people. So history has shown that we can form bigger and bigger and bigger tribes. If we have an enormous threat to our existence, that could be the kind of impetus that would allow the separate cultures, the separate tribes, to at least cooperate in the area of combating the threats. So that's the hope, and that's the message that I'm trying to preach.
Elena, I thought it was well said, but you get the last word here briefly.
Okay. I can understand communication, positive, effective communication, if there is a threat. Now, it all depends on how big the threat is. COVID was a threat, and it didn't quite bring people closer to tribalism. To globalism.
You're right.
Because of the cultural and geographical differences, they kind of affect individualism, whereas electronics doesn't have that option. Electronics is a set of wires and energy through it, and nothing else changes unless it's programmed and reprogrammed, and then you need an individual.
Absolutely, Elena, and I hate to cut you short, but as a first-time caller, or every caller, we appreciate you. And I was just talking before about peaceful defiance, and here it is. I'm not, I'm reading this, so I'm not, making this up. Why does it matter today in workplaces, politics, and daily life? Learning to defy wisely protects personal integrity, strengthens institutions, and sustains our constitutional republic. So if people understand by doing the research, there are ways to peacefully, go out and just navigate this whole concept called freedom, which is what it's all about. Elena, thank you, and hope you'll continue to listen to the Dr. Sky Experience. Let's say good morning. Well, we got to move forward, Doctor, and I apologize here real quick. Okay. Let's move forward and say good morning to Isabel in Manhattan. You're on with Dr. Peter Solomon. How are you?
Hi, Dr. Sky. Fine. How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Good. And hello to your guest. I am worried about trees being removed to put in solar panels and windmills.
Interesting. We never had time to get to that, Doctor, but it's a lot of concern. There's a lot of people out there that have really big concerns about the true viability and the ROI of solar and wind power. What say you, sir?
There is certainly enough evidence that wind turbines are an effective way of producing electricity without pollution. So I think, I'm in favor of it, and I think that solar panels have now, the cost has come down, so it's a very cost-effective way of producing electricity. And my hope is, and that's one of the things in the novel, is fusion power. Fusion power is almost here. We've produced net energy gain at Lawrence Livermore Laboratory in their fusion reactor. So maybe another 5 years we will be able to produce fusion reactors that can produce unlimited amounts of clean energy. So I think the modern technologies have the potential for solving our climate crisis.
Isabel, has that been a concern? Obviously for a long time, and did the good doctor, answer you in a way that you feel satisfied about that? Curious.
I don't think there's anything like trees, really.
Right. I understand. Keep the forest green and keep the planet green. And it's interesting because, again, that's a big subject that is obviously for a time that we don't have right now, but you bring up something very important here. Lots of people are concerned about solar. They take up a lot of area. Not to say it's not good, but one thing I definitely agree with the good doctor on. Can you imagine, Isabel, if we had fusion power, like what powers the sun, an ability to have pretty much a very clean environment in which that particular power is off the charts? But again, the good doctor mentioned, not to put words in your mouth, Dr. Solomon, that's around the corner, right? So that's coming, and that's a very positive thing.
I hope so.
I hope so, too. Isabel, I appreciate you, and thanks for being part of our show, being a part of our program. I really appreciate your call. You have a good morning. I hope your weekend is great. Doctor, let's wrap it up because I want to make sure that everybody understands how to get a copy of your book, 100yearstoextinction.com. And in the short 4 or 5 minutes that we have left as we go to the top of the close of the show here, just tell us the things we might not have heard because we didn't have enough time, and that's no excuse. So please continue.
Well, I just wanted to paint a scene that is in the book, and it has to do with the 3 young Gen Z people worrying about Hawking's prediction, worrying about these modern technology threats. And Lizzie, the older sister, waves her hands over an imaginary crystal ball, and she says, okay, I see what the future is going to be. That genetic engineering is going to produce a superhuman species that is going to annihilate the existing species like we did to the Neanderthals. And then what's going to happen is the robots will come along and say, we don't need these super humanoid species around, and the robots annihilate that species. And then the scene changes to 1 million years hence when the robots have taken over all of Earth and then have colonized the solar system, have colonized a good part of the Milky Way, and they are robots who've taken over our culture and technology, meet up with robots from another civilization. And what is the thing that amazes them? Isn't it amazing that both of our civilizations were created by animals?
That's amazing, Doctor. And on that note, we have to say thank you for now. Hope you'll continue to do this with us in the future iterations of our Dr. Sky experience, 100yearstoextinction.com. Always a privilege and honor to listen, and I'm sure the audience did appreciate. And they can, of course, email me at drsky@wabcradio.com for future guest comments and the such. Thank you so much, Doctor. I look forward to talking to you in the near future. Hope you have a great week.
Thank you for having me on the show. It was a lot of fun to do it with you.
Thank you, sir. Always. And we kept you up early as you move into the early morning hours of Sunday. Thanks again. Next week, ladies and gentlemen, the Dr. Sky Experience. How about award-winning author and journalist David Barron, a brand new book? How about this one, The Martians, the true story of an alien craze that captured the turn of the century America. This guy is an amazing author with so many citations and awards. You'll love that. And then following that, as we move on to our Saturday program into early October, Patrick Wood on technocracy, transhumanism here on the gateway to the mysteries of the universe, and so much more as we continue here on the Dr. Sky Experience. And ladies and gentlemen, this is quite interesting. Here's an end quote that I think is so appropriate. It goes back to the legacy of Dr. Stephen Hawking, and it's this particular quote. The greatest enemy of knowledge is not ignorance, it is the illusion of knowledge. Wow, what a guy, between Dr. Solomon and listening to Stephen Hawking's quotes, so much to talk about, ladies and gentlemen, in so little time, but we do hope that you enjoy this particular radio show. Let us know your comments, and of course, if you want a detailed Sky update, just go to the Dr. Sky Experience podcast, scroll down for the October 2025, the detailed version of what you didn't get to hear on this radio show. Thanks to Tony and Bill, our helmsmen, and now we pass the torch of knowledge on and dialogue to TJ McCormick for the other side of midnight. Clear skies, health, and happiness. And tomorrow, of course, our Saturday midnight program. We move on to a replay as I do my monthly Dr. Sky dinner cruise. The MC, if you're ever out in Arizona, visit us at thedollysteamboat.com. I'm sure you'll enjoy the darkness of Arizona's nighttime skies. Have a great weekend.
Thanks for listening to the Dr. Sky Experience. You can hear the Dr. Sky Experience Saturday mornings, midnight to 2 a.m. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
This
This Sunday is the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Walk Run, and our team is in need of your support. Right now, every dollar counts. The WABC hosts must all rally their loyal audience to participate. Go to WABCRadio.com/walk and help your favorite hosts right here at WABC and support the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Go to WABCRadio.com/walk. Help WABC raise money for the amazing Tunnel to Towers Foundation Walk Run. Go to WABCRadio.com/walk.